any book that focuses on reading, so this is this. Hey guys, welcome back. This time I am discussing Water for Chocolate. I'm trying to get the shine off this book. I'm sorry, it's very shiny. Water for Chocolate by Laura Esquirel. This is a book set in Mexico during the Revolution. I'm honestly really terrible with history in general, including American history, which is very, very sad. So I apologize for not knowing more about the time and everything. I don't know a lot about the culture. I don't know a lot about the time period. So for me, I'm not going to be able to give you like much of a background insight on this book. This was the pick for Emma's book club, which she hosts on Fable, which is a free reading app. It is where you can create and join different book clubs, discuss different books, sometimes even get free ebook copies of the books, depending on. Usually if they're classics, they're in the public domain kind of thing. So she has her Around the World book club that she is hosting over there this year. A lot of you know the Around the World Challenge, trying to read a book from every single country in the world, if possible. I would also love to do that. I do find that most of my reading taste ends up being from, honestly, not that much from America. I don't like a lot of American classics, and I'm very much a classics person. So England is usually my, probably my highest percentage of like classic literature. But I've also read from Spain, France, Mexico, I think Canada, definitely Japan, China, I think Taiwan. I'll have to go through and actually figure this out, but I would love to read a book from every country. Lebanon from Khalil Gibran, but I know I have a long way to go. So I was excited that she created, instead of just doing her own Around the World Challenge, she's created a book club. And the first book was like Water for Chocolate. This is a book about magical realism, for one. So if that's not your thing, maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. It's not really my thing. I am not a big fan of magical realism in general. However, I was surprised that I did like it in this book, and I think the reason that I liked it in this book was because the magical realism is mostly tied to food and cooking. So I was very excited about that. Reading and cooking are two of my absolute favorite things to do. So any book that focuses on reading, any book that focuses on cooking has a higher chance, I feel like, of being a hit with me. And this one was. I gave this about 4 stars in the end. I almost wonder if I was able to read this in Spanish, if this would be more of a 5-star read for me. I did see somebody comment in the book club in Fable when they ended up reviewing the book. He said that he or she, actually now I can't remember whose review this was, but they said that they read it mostly in Spanish, and then they read some parts of it in English as well to kind of compare, and they said they felt that if you read this only from the English translation, you're losing a lot of context, and I 100% believe that that is true. I also think that because I am very unfamiliar with Mexico's history and the events specifically around this book, loud noises! I am missing a lot of context clues. However, I still quite enjoyed this. This is the story of Tita. She was born early because even in the womb, as her mother was in the kitchen with a bunch of onions being chopped, the onions were making Tita cry so hard that she came out early. She was born in the kitchen amongst a meal being prepared, and then that became her life going forward. Unfortunately, she is the youngest daughter of this family, and the youngest daughter by tradition is never allowed to marry, never allowed to leave the home. She is destined to care for the mother until the mother dies in her old age, and she is basically a servant of the household for her entire life as a result. And that is the fate of every youngest daughter in this family, and it sounds like kind of in maybe the overall culture. So she's heartbroken because as like a 15, 16-year-old, she falls in love with a young man that she met in town. His name is Pedro. Pedro comes to ask Mama Elena for her hand in marriage, and Mama Elena basically just laughs him out of the house, and then realizes that her daughter having the gall to fall in love could be a problem. So she basically ends up marrying Pedro to the middle daughter, Rosaura. So the story follows Tita through her life in the kitchen, always cooking for the family, always cooking for special events. And the magical realism comes into play when it comes to her cooking her emotions while she's making a meal, imbue into the food without her knowing it, and then has a direct effect on the people therefore eating that food. They are then impacted as though those emotions, which are now amplified through the food, are from them. And it's interesting how that weaves throughout the story. This is also really cool because at the beginning of each chapter, a specific dish, and then it has, it's really hard to see on this printing, I don't care for that part, but it has the ingredients, and then in the chapter it actually explains how to make this dish. So each chapter is kind of based around a specific recipe, and it's woven into the story of their lives. So this is the story of as Tita grows up, what happens to each of her sisters, what happens to her mother, what happens to Pedro, and her searching for the freedom to have a life of her own. I think Emma said this in her review, the writing is very distanced, so you don't become particularly attached to any of the characters because you don't really get their true inside thoughts and perspectives. It is written from a distance, and so I do agree with that. I think that that's accurate, but I don't see it necessarily as a negative overall because it really gives you the freedom to judge the characters based on their actions, and I think that becomes very important in this book. Pedro, not the best. Really, there's not a lot of good, truly good people in this book, but I also think that that's true of just humanity in general. Everybody has things that they do that they should not have done, that they regret, and there are people who do things that they shouldn't do that they don't regret, and there's a lot of complex aspects to the characters in here, but it doesn't dive very deeply into them, so you are kind of very much an observer of everything throughout the book instead of, feeling like you're a part of it. I ended up giving this 4 stars. There was just something missing for me, and like I said, maybe if I was able to read it in the original Spanish that would feel different, but I enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed the magical realism because it was tied in with the food. That somehow connected with me more than other stories that include magical realism that just felt like it was taking me out of the story. I would definitely recommend this book. It's an interesting look at 3 different daughters, the different paths that they take in life, how they each find what feels like freedom to them, and how they leave and reconnect with family throughout their lives, and what family means to them, what their heritage means to them. And yeah, I enjoyed this. I will probably read this again, maybe a few years down the road. I know it's just a quick little short review. I don't want to get into it because there could be a ton of spoilers, so I don't want to spoil anything. This book is very short and it is a wild ride from start to finish. So if you're looking for something that is kind of upbeat, has those highs and lows, with a twist of magical realism, with a lot of food and a lot of heart, I would say go ahead and try picking up Water for Chocolate by Laura Escurel. If I can find the book for February, which was On a Winter's Night, A Traveler, which I think is from Italy, I will. The book sounds really interesting, but I'm having a hard time finding a copy that I really want to read. Most of the places that I can find really only have ebook copies. Kind of trying not to spend too much money right now on new books and things because I still don't have a job. So my finances are a little tight right now. So I'm not actually sure if I'm going to be doing the book for February, but if I do, I will let you guys know my thoughts on that one. But I am going to be trying to follow along with the Around the World Reading Book Club. So if you want to check that out, go to Fable, and it is by Emma, and it is, I believe, Around the World Book Club, or Around the World Book Tour Book Club, something like that. So you should be able to find it. You can also check out Emma's video, which I will try to find and link below, that has the actual true details on it. Hey, buddy. So, okay. This is all I've read so far this year, along with where I'm at with the Count of Monte Cristo. I'm not getting to read very much. Things are super crazy busy for me, and trying to get my new business off the ground with my voiceover career. Friends are having surgery. Things have been going on, and honestly, I just have not had much time or energy to read. I barely managed to read this in the month of January, so hopefully I will be able to get more videos up for you guys with, books. But I'm also trying to work on sort of vlogging my starting of my voiceover career, and still trying to figure out if that's gonna be on this channel, if I'm gonna make it a separate channel. I'm not really sure, but I will keep you guys informed. I'm so glad that you guys joined me today. I hope you're doing well. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other, and I will see you in my next one.